if you may have noticed, some of the questions are just being repeated, but they are just reworded. So as a reviewee, it must be clear to you that you're being also tested on your consistency of knowledge. Meaning to say, even if the test um, rewords some of the question, would you still stick to your original answer? Or would you change it because you actually don't know the concept behind the question? If you keep on changing your answer, that means you don't know the actual concept. You're not certain. So that means you really have to, I guess, pin down or master the concept behind the questions so that you will be consistent. Okay, let's go to number 8. How does Chomsky's language acquisition device, or LAD, theory propose that children learn language? Okay, so I hope you're familiar with Chomsky. I hope you're familiar with LAD. Okay, so what is the best answer here? Through reinforcement again? Reinforcement? Again, that's behaviorism. Is Chomsky a known behaviorist? Yes or no? Can you type in the chat box? Is he a known behaviorist? If you say yes, then I have to scold you because no, he's not a known behaviorist. Next, through exposure to language in the environment, is he a known social interactionist? SI? No. He is known for his universal grammar, obviously. So this should be easy to you by now, okay? It's just repeating the concept, using different words, okay? So C is the correct answer here. Number 9, cognitive developmental theory. So I hope you still remember Piaget, right? He's a cognitive developmentalist. Okay, he's known for his 4 stages, which are sensory motor, pre-operational, what else? Operational, concrete operational, and formal operational stage, right? Okay, now based on the theory, what is the correct answer here? Is it A, B, or C? So let's look at the keywords. Interaction with caregivers. The word interaction, what does it remind you of? You have to talk with others, you have to chat with others. So is this behaviorism? Is this cognitivism or social interactionism? So this is more of SI, interactionism, social interactionism. And here we're talking about cognition or cognitivism. So SI is not correct. Through innate language specific abilities, innate language specific abilities. Here, we already encountered the word innate, right? This refers to Chomsky. And Chomsky is known for what? Is UG, universal grammar, or nativism? Okay, nativism. The idea that children have the ability to learn language the moment they're born. Okay, that's nativism. And then UG, universal grammar. And how about this? Through the ability to understand and process language. It sounds correct, right? So let's put a question mark here. So we are left with 2 choices, B and C. Now, question is, which is the better answer? Innate language specific abilities or ability to understand and process language? If you answered B, then congratulations, you are wrong. It's not B. It is letter C, ability to understand and process language, okay? Take note of the phrase understand and process. We're talking about cognitive developmental theory. Okay? Now, there's an argument that nativism or LAD or universal grammar belongs under cognitivism. Okay? Cognitivism, because it also requires some cognitive processes. Well, I tend to agree with that. However, the question is cognitive developmental theory, which is quite different from cognitivism alone. Okay? Be careful. Cognitivism and cognitive developmental theory are related, but they have distinct, features and elements too. Now, when we say cognitive developmental theory, we are talking about understanding and processing of language using our perception, our memory, problem solving skills, which requires mathematical skills, logic, those stuff. Now, innate language-specific abilities, that's particular to nativism, not cognitive developmental theory. So just be careful with the distinction between nativism and cognitive developmental theory. So 9, the correct answer is C. Now number 10, if Mr. Tobalanza were a social constructivist, how would he propose that children learn language? Okay, the theory is social constructivism. Perhaps you know Lev Vygotsky, right? Lev Vygotsky as a social constructivist. So he's the one who said that there should be a more knowledgeable other, so that children would learn from that person, MKO. And then that's how he would learn a language, by observing and modeling MKO. So based on that explanation, what do you think is the best answer here? Again, is it A, innate specific abilities? Innate, this is what? Nativism. Okay? Not social constructivism. Okay? Nativism. Second, through exposure to language in environment. Exposure to language, we already said that this is SI in the previous question. And third, chatting and internalization of language. What is the best answer? Best answer is C. Through chatting and the internalization of language, okay? Chatting. So that means you are going to interact. You're going to interact with others. And your interaction with others will result to you acquiring a language, because others will give you input, which presumably you don't know yet. And then from then on, you will receive scaffolding through repetition or pictures or use of materials, use of examples. And that's how your knowledge of language will become more and more complex. So it will keep on restructuring the more you expose yourself to other people. So that's the meaning of social constructivism. So the answer is letter C. Now, number 11, if Mr. Tobalanza were a connectionist, okay, this is connectionism, how would he propose that children learn language? Okay, well, what is connectionism in the first place? Does it have something to do with interaction with others? Or, because that means connect, right? You have to connect with others. Is it social interactionism? Or is it different from it? Well, let's see. First choice, through the formation of neural networks. So first of all, what is neural networks? So here we're talking about the brain, okay? The neurons in your brain, okay? Neurons in your brain. That's what it means. Next, through innate language-specific abilities. Again, this is UG, Universal Grammar, Nativism. And then reinforcement and imitation, so this is behaviorism. Behaviorism. Anyway, so that's behaviorism. Third. Okay. Wait, is behaviorism same as connectionism? Is UG nativism same as connectionism, or is the first one the correct answer? If your guess is the first, you are correct. So this is more of the role of the brain in language acquisition. So this is under neuro or neurolinguistics or brains, something to do with brain science and linguistics. Okay, so what this essentially means is that there are particular regions in the brain that process language, and when these regions connections are strengthened through different means, for example, drills, imitation, interaction with others, exposure to visual materials, exposure to auditory materials, then all these connections in the brains that are relevant to language processing and acquisition will become stronger, and it means that the learner will have a better chance or higher chance of mastering the language. So that's the meaning of connectionism. Okay? So connectionism has something to do with the neurons in your brain. Neurons or the regions in the brain that are relevant to language processing. Okay, let's go to number 12. How does the usage-based theory of language acquisition propose that children learn language? Okay, now what is usage-based theory? First of all, what is usage-based theory? It means that children learn language through a processing of using and interacting with language in their environment. So there's the word interacting or interaction. So again, let's mention the keywords. Using, interacting, language, environment. So those are the keywords that explain usage-based theory. Okay? So children learn language if they use it, if they interact with others in the environment. That's usage-based theory. All right, now let's eliminate choices here. We can eliminate the first one through exposure to language in the environment, because this is not enough. This is insufficient. It's not enough that you have exposure to language, because you can simply just listen passively or read something without ever talking to someone. And that's not what usage-based theory is. You need to also have a form of interaction. Next, through innate language specific, again, this is UG or nativism. And then third, application and exposure to language. So there you go. This is the complete answer, because there's the word application, which refers to usage or using. And then there's exposure to language. So correct answer is letter C. Okie dokie, let's go to 13. How does the dynamic systems theory? Oh my God. Is it your first time to hear this theory? Well, if it's your first time, congratulations. There's always a first time. You'll never know. This might be asked. So always better to prepare, or even over-prepare, right? So dynamic systems theory of language. What is this all about? Now, this theory is all about the idea that children learn language through this complex but self-organizing process that involves many factors or many elements. So listen to the keywords there. Complex, self-organizing, many factors. So those three keywords, try to write them in your note. So in other words, language can be learned, or language is learned through different means, to varied means, which can be behaviorism, can be connectionism, can be social interactionism or social constructivism. Now, all these things can influence language acquisition. So basically, dynamic systems theory tries to cover all the other theories already mentioned. Now, based on that, what is the correct answer? Is it interaction of complex elements? Oh my god, there's the word complex, so that rings a bell, or that should be ding 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 ding. Second, through innate language ability. Again, that's UG. Is it UG only? Is it reinforcement imitation only? Okay, so we can eliminate right away the choices. Correct answer is the first one, interaction of complex elements. All right, let's go to number 14. If a speaker uses a sentence that suggests a statement but does not directly state it, what is it called? Okay, so it's something to do with this has something to do with discourse, okay, or something to do with pragmatics. All right. Now, what is this thing called? That's the question. So there's a sentence, but the sentence suggests something, not directly. Is it implicature, literal meaning, connotative meaning? Now, what is implicature? So when you say implicature, just think of it as an implication. Implication, which means what is being implied or what is being suggested. Okay, which can be found in the question itself, which can be suggested. So I guess I'm giving you the answer right away. But anyway, let's talk about literal meaning. When you say literal meaning, it is something that is objectively and concretely verifiable. There's no deeper meaning to it. What you see is what you get, in other words. That's literal meaning. And when you say connotative meaning, it's a meaning that has an emotional or an affective aspect to it. Okay? An emotional or an affective aspect to it. That's connotative meaning or connotation. And based on the explanation, so what is the best answer? It's letter A, which is we call that in linguistics implicature, right? There is a I forgot his name. The four maxims, right? I encountered this term when we discuss the four maxims. Now let's go to number 15. Okay, we're halfway there. What is the difference between a restrictive and non-restrictive clause? Oh my goodness! So this is grammar, and I hope you're still familiar with the difference between restrictive and non-restrictive clause. All right, so what is the best answer? I am not going to read all these things because there are many of them. Let's just go ahead and answer the question. So is it A, is it B, or is it C? Okay, guess. Correct answer is letter A. Alright, so let's read. Restrictive clauses are essential to the meaning of a sentence, so keyword is essential, and are not set off by commas. Alright? While non-restrictive clauses are not essential and are set off by commas. So if a clause is set off by commas, they are not essential, we can eliminate them. The meaning of the sentence still the meaning still makes sense. Whereas if it's restrictive, if we eliminate the clause, the meaning of the sentence will be weird or will definitely change. So it is definitely essential. So, for example, if you say, Mr. Tabalansa, who graduated from PUP, is the best. Okay? There are no commas. If you see no commas, that means the clause that begins with who, that means it is an essential clause, and we call that restrictive clause. But if you see commas before and after the clause, so let's say Mr. Tabalansa, comma, who graduated from PUP, comma, is the best, then you can already say that the clause set off by commas is not necessary in the sentence in terms of meaning. So therefore, you can eliminate it, and the sentence still makes sense. So that's the difference between the two clauses. Okay, let's now go to number 16. What is the difference between a transitive and intransitive verb? Okay, this is still grammar. What do you think is the answer here? Okay, let's brush up on grammar, especially the verb, transitive and intransitive. Okay, now when you say transitive, it's the verb that requires an object, right? It requires an object. Now, an object is called the direct object, okay? Now, intransitive is the verb that does not require a verb. So, for example, of transitive verb in a sentence, Mr. Tabalansa kicks the ball. Mr. Tabalansa kicks the ball. The verb kick, okay, or kicks, is transitive because it requires the direct object balls. Yes, Mr. Tabalansa loves balls or kicks balls. Okay, so this word kicks is transitive. Now, when you say Mr. Tabalansa slept yesterday. Okay, Mr. Tabalansa slept yesterday. Now, does the word slept transitive or intransitive? So first of all, is yesterday a verb? Is yesterday a direct object? A direct object? Of course not. Yesterday is what? Is an adverb of time. So adverb is not a direct object. Therefore, we can say that slept is an intransitive verb. It does not require a direct object. Okay? So that's the meaning of intransitive and intransitive verb. What's the best answer here? The best answer is the first one. Okay, transitive requires. So not this. Transitive verbs taken in the not indirect but direct object. Okay? Let's go to 17. What is the function of a gerund phrase? So here we're talking about verbals. We know that there are three types of verbals. We have gerund, we have infinitive, and we have participle. Okay, just a quick Explanation. When you say gerund, it's the one that ends with ing and it's functioning as a noun. And noun, remember, can be a subject of a sentence, can also be direct object, an indirect object, an object of proposition, an appositive, etc. Okay? Now, when you say infinitive, it's the one that begins with the word to, followed by the base form of a verb. So, for example, a base form of a word. So, for example, to kick, to sing, to dance. Right. So that's an example of infinitive, and it can function as a noun. It can also function as an adjective, and also function as an adverb. So among the three, infinitive is the most versatile because it has a lot of functions. Now the third verbal is called participle. There are two types of participle, present and past. Present ends with ing, so it looks like a gerund, but the function is different. And then the second is past participle, which can end variably depending on the regularity of verbs. So a verb can be regular, and then its past participle can end in d or ed. But if the verb is irregular, then it can end with en or n or not, or stay the same, like the word kept. So the past tense of keep is kept, past participle is kept, right? So that's an example of the past participle. And participle functions as an adjective. So it modifies a noun or pronoun. Okay, based on that, what is the correct answer? So gerund only functions as a noun, okay? Only as a noun. Now to function as a direct object, is a direct object a noun? Well, yes. So that's a check. To function as an adjective, wait. Gerund does not function as an adjective. It only functions as a noun. So we can eliminate this. And to function as a modifier. What is a modifier? Well, a modifier can be an adjective or an adverb. Therefore, we can eliminate this too. And the correct answer is the first choice. Okay? Because a direct object is a noun. And that's the function of gerund. Let's go to 18. What is the function of a participle phrase? So as I already explained, participle can be present or past. And it functions as an adjective. So for example, rolling stone. Now this is an example of a present participle. Why? Because the word rolling ends with the ing, and it is describing the noun stone. What kind of stone? It's a rolling stone. Now, what's an example of a past participle? Hurt feelings, for example. Hurt feelings. Okay, anyway. So the word hurt here is functioning as a participle because it is describing the noun feeling. Okay, the noun feeling. And hurt, it comes from the verb hurt, which has a past tense of hurt, which is the same spelling, and past participle of hurt, same spelling. So this this word hurt is a past participle, functioning as an adjective describing feeling. Now, what is the correct answer? Number 18. Past participle, is it functioning as a subject or as a noun? Definitely not. Functioning as an adjective? Well, yes, because it modifies. Functioning as an infinitive phrase? Well, participle is not infinitive, so we can eliminate that. Obviously, the correct answer is B. Number 19, what is an infinitive phrase? Okay, this phrase, you should know this also. I explained, infinitive always begins with the word to, followed by the base form of the verb, like to love, okay? To leave, to love, to leave, um, to grow, whatever, okay, whatever verb that you can think of. It always begins with the word to. And again, this functions as a noun, as an adjective, or as an adverb. Okay, so this is the most versatile. Now, based on the choices, I think it's very obvious that A is the correct answer because it begins with to. It does not begin with not, obviously, so we can eliminate that. And it's not functioning as a noun. It can function as a noun, adjective, or adverb, but it does not begin with not. And it begins with a verb. Well, a verb like loves, love you, no, it begins with to. So this is not correct. Okay, let's go to 20. What's the function of a subject in a sentence? Oh, this should be pretty easy to you. What's the function of a subject? So we know that a sentence is composed of two major parts. We have the subject, we have the predicate. Subject is the one that's being talked about in the sentence, and predicate is the one that describes or tells something about the subject. So is it A, provide additional information so that message is crystal clear? Well, this is quite confusing because when you read a sentence, usually the one that gives additional information is the predicate part because it describes the subject or states the condition of the subject, right? So this is not correct. To indicate the person or thing. Okay, sounds correct. And then to indicate the verb tense, no, the verb tense, we are talking about predicate, so it's definitely not C. Correct answer is B. Okay, 21. What is a subordinate clause? Remember that in English grammar, there are three types. There are three types of clauses. We have coordinate clause or coordinating. We have coordinate clause. We have subordinate clause, and we also have. Wait, I forgot the third one. Correlative clause. Okay, but here we're talking about subordinate clause. Now, when you say subordinate clause, it makes that clause subordinate or dependent on the main clause. So meaning to say it cannot stand on its own when you say subordinate clause. And usually subordinate clause starts with subordinating conjunctions like if, when, before, after. So those subordinate clause. There are many subordinating conjunctions in English. So based on that explanation, what is the best answer here? Can it stand alone? No. It's the opposite. The one that can stand alone is not a subordinate clause, but we call that the independent clause. So independent clause. Okay. Independent. The opposite of subordinate clause is independent clause. Subordinate clause, another term for that is dependent clause. Dependent. All right. So definitely A is not correct because it refers to independent. Clause that is dependent, well, yes, that's what I explained. And the clause that is used to provide additional information, well, it may be true, but technically not correct because a dependent clause may also provide additional information, especially if you have a compound sentence. So this is tricky because it may be true, but not technically correct because the question is asking for the definition of subordinate clause. So the best answer is letter B. 22. What is a compound sentence? So there are many types of sentences in English. Depends on the structure. We have simple sentence, which only contains subject, predicate. We have a compound sentence, which means you have two independent clauses joined by coordinating conjunctions. And I hope you still remember fanboys, right? These are the coordinating conjunctions. We have fan, meaning for. We have a for what? And. We have N for nor, B for but, O for or, Y for yet, and then S for so. So these are the coordinating conjunctions that you can find in compound sentences. Now, these coordinating conjunctions can be replaced by what punctuation mark, by a semicolon. Semicolon is this period on top or a dot on top and then a comma below. So this is what we call the semicolon. Semicolon replaces coordinating conjunction. So if you see a sentence with a semicolon in between, that is a compound sentence. Okay? Alright, so what is the best answer here? Is it A, two or more independent clauses and at least one conjunction? Okay. Alright, sounds correct. B, a sentence that contains two or more dependent? No. Not dependent. And no conjunctions? No. It needs a conjunction. A sentence that contains only one clause? Wait, a compound sentence includes two independent clauses, so we can eliminate C. Alright, so the best answer is letter A. Alright, let's go to 23. A teacher is teaching a class about the morphological structure of a word. So morphology, I hope you understand what morphology is. It's the scientific study of how words are formed, or the word formation. Okay, that's morphology. Question is, which grammatical feature is the teacher likely to discuss? So these are the grammatical features. We have the number, gender, and case. So number refers to the plurality of the word. In English, the plurality can be manifested if you see the S after the word, right? If there's S, then that means it's plural. It's more than one. Especially if the word or if the noun is a regular noun. But in English, there are also irregular nouns, which means their spelling is, or their plural form is unpredictable. Okay, but they have the feature of number still. Like the word man, it's singular. You don't say mans to express its plural form. You say men. So the vowel changes. Okay, but there's still the feature of number in English in irregular nouns. Now gender, of course, we're talking about it's either male, female, or neutral, or meaning to say it's a thing or an object. So, and this is manifested in nouns and pronouns. Okay, and then in case, of course, we have also we have case feature in nouns and pronouns. So we have the subjective case pronouns, we have the objective case, we have the possessive case of pronouns too. So based on the explanation, what is the best answer here? Alright, well, this is I think one of the difficult questions you encountered today. The correct answer here is, ta-da, number. The best answer here is number. Okay, why number? Because remember, we're talking about grammatical feature. Grammatical feature. So when you say grammar, it's the rule of language. So number affects the grammar of a sentence because if the number of the noun is singular, therefore the verb must also agree with it or must align itself with it. And in that instance, we are activating the grammar feature of the language because one part of speech or one word class has to agree with another word class. And that's a grammatical feature that we're talking about. In gender and in case, not so much. So the best answer here is number because it requires the addition of an extra letter or an extra sound, which is the s or the s sound. Okay, so that's letter A, 24. A teacher is teaching a class about the relationship between morphology and semantics. Which morphological process is the teacher likely to discuss? Okay, so morphology and semantics. What's the relationship between morphology and semantics? So just so you know, semantics refers to what? The meaning, the study of meaning. Okay? The study of meaning. So there's a relationship between word formation and meaning, right? Of course, so for example, the word bookworm, right? Let's say bookworm. If it's just the word book, it has a different meaning, right? It's a thing that you read with many letters. And then worm is an insect that crawls on the ground and that eats you when you die. Something like that. But if you join them together, right, the word becomes entirely different from the individual words. Because when you say bookworm, that means you love to read books. Meaning to say, perhaps you are smart. So there's a different meaning altogether there. Also, when you say do, okay, the word do, if I add the prefix on here, becomes different. The meaning of do is different from the meaning of undo, right? It's reversing the meaning of it. So that's also an example of morphological process involving morphology and semantics. Now, based on that explanation, what is the correct or best answer here? Okay, well, again, I think this is one of the most difficult questions you had today. Correct answer here is actually 2. Okay, it's derivation and compounding. So the teacher is likely to discuss derivation and compounding because here we are talking about how words are formed and how those words acquire new meanings by adding something to them. Now, when you say inflection, we are dealing with grammatical feature. Inflection deals with grammatical feature of the language. So grammatical features can be case, number, gender, or tense. So that's inflection. But derivation deals with, derivation and compounding deal with word formation, okay, and also semantics because they add different meaning to the original word. So the best answer is B and C, actually. Now let's go to 25. A teacher is teaching a class about the relationship between morphology and syntax. Which grammatical feature is the teacher likely to discuss? Again, we are talking about, or we are combining two components. Okay, two components of linguistics, morphology and syntax. But the question is, which grammatical feature? Okay, which grammatical feature? A while ago, we're talking about morphological feature. Here we're talking about grammatical feature. All right, so which here expresses grammatical feature? Is it number? Is it gender? Or is it tense? Okay, I guess you already have a clue. Of course, number deals with the singularity or plurality of the word. Gender, of course, deals with the perceived gender of the noun or pronoun. And then tense deals with the verb of when the action is done. So the best answer here is letter C, tense. Why letter C? Okay, because here question is morphology and syntax. So first, what is syntax? It's the arrangement of words, right? Arrangement of words, that's syntax. Now, the best answer is tense here because tense deals with the action or the verb. And then the verb will have to depend on the other words in the sentence. Because if the word yesterday in the sentence, then the verb will have to change to the past tense. And so the arrangement of words will have to be, or its syntax will have to be affected by that too. Okay? So best answer is tense. 26. A teacher is teaching a class about root words and affixes. Which morphological process is the teacher likely to discuss? Okay, so here we're talking about, again, morphology. Root words, I hope you still remember what root words are. So these are the words or the basis of the words with prefix and suffix, okay? And of course, affixes are those articles added before, after, and in between the root words. Okay? So, based on the question, what is the correct or best answer here? Dun, 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 dun. The best answer we can say is derivation. Derivation. Okay, why derivation? Because derivation is another word for affixation. Okay, so in other words, the question is just tricking you if you know the term derivation and affixation. They are just the same. So when you say undo, okay, this is an example of derivation because the word undo is derived from the word do, which is the root. This is the root of the word undo. Undo is derived from the word do. Okay? Manage. Okay? This is the root of the word management. Right? Manage is the root word. Ment is the suffix. The word management is derived from the word manage. So, ment is suffix, which is part of affixation, or which is an affix also. So, in other words, affixation is equal to derivation. Again, inflection has something to do with the grammatical feature of language. Inflection has affects the tense, the number, the case, the gender of a word. Okay, clipping is when you shorten or truncate. So another word for clipping is truncation. Truncation or shortening. So when you shorten a word that used to be long, it's now short. So for example, gymnasium. So the clipping of that is gym, right? What else? So gymnasium, we have laboratory. So it's a long word. You can shorten it or you can clip it to become lab. So that's clipping. Okay. Let me just write it here. So another word for truncation is shortening. All right. So the correct answer is B. Let's go to 27. A teacher is teaching a class about syntactic morphology. Which morphological process is the teacher likely to discuss? All right. So here we're talking about syntactic morphology. Okay. Syntactic morphology. Which morphological process is the teacher likely to discuss? So when you say syntactic morphology, it's just combining syntax and morphology. And here we are talking about the arrangement of words through the process of word formation. And the best answer here, okay, has something to do with the grammatical feature of language. Okay? Grammatical feature of language. And the one that expresses a grammatical feature of language has something to do with, let's say, the case, the tense, the gender of the word. So, and the one that expresses that is inflection. Letter A. It's the one that expresses a grammatical feature. So for example, when you have, let's say, let's have the tense. Adrian, okay, sings a song. Okay, so the inflection here is this part, the adding of the S. Why? Because the subject of the sentence is Adrian, which is singular, and the verb here is this one, sing. It has to agree with this. And because it has to agree based on the rule, therefore it needs to add this extra letter or this extra sound, sings. Okay? And here we are dealing already with two different word classes. We have noun and we have the verb sings. Okay? So this is already part of syntax, which is word arrangement. We are dealing with more than one word. We're dealing with two words already, Adrian and sings. And that's part of syntax. And morphology here deals with the word sings because it changes based on the number of the noun or the subject that we have. So best answer here is inflection, not derivation and not clipping, because we're not dealing with only one word. We're dealing with a sentence. Okay? So let's move on to 28. All right. Here, key phrase is morphological productivity. So which process gives you, gives you more words? Which process gives you more words? or generates more words? That's essentially the meaning of the question. So which process gives you or generates more words for you? Is it the process of inflection, derivation, or clipping? Well, I guess you can know you have the clue already. It's derivation. Because, well, if it's just inflection, usually you only have the adding of the s, right? Or the ed if it's a tense, d or ed. And this is what you do. This is what you have only. Whereas if you have derivation, you have many prefixes and suffixes, and therefore you can have a lot of new words. You have the un, you have the re, you have the what else? Miss. Okay, so examples of prefixes, suffixes. We have mint, right? You have mint. You have dom, kingdom, queendom, etc. So in other words, derivation gives you more words than inflection. The inflection is limited to the addition of the s, the ed, or even the ly, or er for adjectives, right? Clipping is no, because you're simply shortening the words. There are not too many words in English that can be shortened. So derivation is the best answer. Alright, 29. Mr. Tabalanza is teaching a class about natural phonology. Okay, take note of natural phonology. Which phonological process is the teacher likely to discuss? So which one is here is natural? Or which one looks natural to you? A, B, or C? The correct answer here is B, syllable simplification. Now, what is syllable simplification? It's when syllables are simplified by speakers over time. Why do they need to simplify the words? Probably because they're too long to pronounce and they're in a hurry. So they just want to make things more efficient. And that's the tendency of humans. Make things shorter, more efficient, so that they can do other things. And usually, if you listen to Americans or what we call the native speakers of a language, it's hard for us to listen to them because they speak so fast, and sometimes we think that they're eating their words. But no, they're not. It's just the way they simplify the syllables. So they instead of pronouncing each syllable carefully, they do not do that. Sometimes they omit or delete some of the syllables or some of the consonants or vowels in between, so that it's much easier for them to pronounce it. Okay? And usually usually native speakers speak like that. Even Filipinos, if we speak the natural way, sometimes we do not speak like a robot, right? We speak naturally, deleting some of the syllables. And then when you say vowel harmony, this is when the vowel of a suffix influences the vowel before it. And this is true for languages like Turkish and Finnish, but not all languages have vowel harmony. But so this one is not part of natural not part of natural phonology. Same with consonant gradation. Some languages have this feature of phonology, but not all languages, unlike syllable simplification, which can be observed virtually among all languages. Okay, now let's go to 30. A teacher is teaching a class about generative phonology. Okay, here it's generative. Which phonological process is the teacher likely to discuss? So take note of generatives, meaning to say it creates more. Generate. Okay, well, first let's talk about syllable structure. What is a syllable structure? Well, of course, we know that syllable has consonant, has vowel. Um, we also know if you combine some vowels and some consonants, uh, we there can be another term for them like cluster, right? So it's a combination of two consonants, right, together. We also have the core syllable, and we have the coda. So that's part of syllable structure. We have the consonant, we have the vowel, we have the core, we have the coda. Coda is especially particular to rhymes or songs or poems. Now, vowel harmony, as already explained, only found in some languages, not all languages. And then accent reduction is when you try to reduce an accent that you perceive to be heavy, so that you will not be given a questioning look by others. So if you have a heavy accent, like you're from Cebu, for example, or from Waray, then people might look at you with questioning eyes, right? So accent reduction is one of the ways to avoid that or prevent that. And if you're a call center agent, usually you will undergo accent reduction so that you will sound more like Americans or British or Australian. Now the correct answer here is letter A, the syllable structure. Generative phonology. It's because we are talking about phonology, which is the scientific study of sound. And in phonology, you have to know the syllables, the arrangement of consonants and vowels, and that's how you can come up with rhyming for your poems, for your songs, or different lyrics. So that's why it's the best answer. Okay, now I know that it's just we barely scrape the surface of all these theories and principles in linguistics. But I hope you learned something from this discussion, and please do your own or supplement the result of your scores by doing your own research about the concepts described tonight, so that you'll have better understanding. But for now, I think I will end my discussion, and I thank you so much for listening. My voice is already rough. Anyway, thank you for listening. If you have questions, just type them in the chat box, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye for now.